Hello and welcome back to another episode of In the Business. Now today we'll be talking to Norbert. Norbert is currently a football coach. However, he used to work in hospitality, construction, he's owned a few companies and he's worked at some of the biggest football clubs in the world. We want to start off at hospitality. Now you spent 8 years in the hospitality management before you transitioned into coaching. What lessons did you learn there that you still use today?
Very straightforward. First of all, thank you for having me, guys. It's a pleasure. It's an honor, and it's very exciting what you boys do. I wanted to say that on the podcast as well before.
Thank you very much. We appreciate it.
Hospitality, wow, one of the big parts of my life. And to be honest, if I want to be direct and straightforward with you, is people skills. People skills, adapting in different environments, and understanding how to behave with different type of people, how to be diplomatic. Relationships. All your life, you're going to go through relationships. You're going to be working with people, and you have to understand that everybody is a unique person on its own, and you have to adapt. You can't always, I'm not saying don't be yourself, but sometimes you just got to read the room, what is needed.
Yeah,
and
sure.
That's definitely something that hospitality taught me. So
amazing. So you started off in hospitality. What do you then transition into? How did it lead to where you are today?
Well, before hospitality, I was actually in construction, and then I went
really?
to hospitality. Yeah, that was many years ago when I was quite young, back in the days in my home country in Serbia. Hospitality 5 years on cruise ships. Then I went to Canada 3 years. I was married. I had my own business. I was a contractor. Back to construction, but also I did hospitality on the side to earn extra money. And came to the UK 2018, did hospitality again until I was paying off my studies to get into coaching. So I would say it was a kind of back and forth thing with hospitality. It did help me develop who I am. It did help me pay for my education and what I am today. As you gentlemen know, hospitality is quite flexible. There's people always needed. Money's quite good if you're good as well as a server. But after that, I just came to the UK and I said, listen, I'm just going to become a coach. And
what inspired you to become a coach? Why did you want to do that?
Good question. I think like every other coach, I was a player once upon a time and it didn't work out. And then the next thing I wanted to do is coaching. But it took me a few years to realize why exactly I am coaching. So I started off like everybody else, but to understand the why behind it, there was a lot of education, a lot of self-reflection going on. And then I realized that when I was a kid growing up, back in the days, it was Yugoslavia, now it's Serbia. We had some wars going on and poverty was quite high and inflation was super high. You had to have like a bag of money to go buy bread and milk. That's how bad it was. But I don't remember it because I played football all day long.
Yeah.
So I know football is a global business now. I think it's over a £500 billion business yearly, something like that. But on the end of the day, football is a lifestyle. And if used the right way, it can change lives quite drastically in a really positive way. And that's what I'm doing with football. I am using it to change lives, to educate people, to use the influence of football. So that's my why.
Amazing. So what was the sort of gap you saw in the market to start NC education? Tell us a bit about the early days of starting that.
It started accidentally.
As do most things, I suppose.
Yeah, I guess so. I mean, look, I am not an ex-pro player. I have no connections in academies, but I drastically and desperately wanted to get into the professional environment. And I couldn't in the beginning. So I figured if I can't get into one, let me create one. Let me make my own professional environment. So I had this idea, this thought in my head how a professional environment might look like. And a previous club that I used to run at non-league is where all this started. The dream was to build a professional club. We had some investors from South Korea, some really great people with a great vision. But we grew so fast that we couldn't financially cope with it because I was just crazy to grow. And the real reason behind NC Education was my visit to Scotland and meeting the Ajax coaching academy and the director of the Ajax football academy. And loving the idea how they do things. And I just wanted to bring them here into our club to have a partnership on the end of the day with them to help our club grow. grow the reputation of the club, grow the coach education levels of the club. And the club just, well, didn't fold, but the investors pulled out. They couldn't cope with it. So I figured I built so much. Let me continue this. So I just started NC Education.
Amazing. So you talked about growing too fast. What does that look like? Does that too many players joining the what you're working on? Like, what is growing too fast in this business? What does that look like?
So just to give a perspective, we were at step 8, something like that. That is probably the 11th level of the football pyramid in England. We had a budget of, I don't know, let's say around 20K a year, which is crazy for that level. But then I got Celtic Football Academy on board and we signed a contract with costs us around 10K a year. Then we had Ajax, the event, which costs us around 30K a year. So I started bringing in all these big names because I had a vision, I had a goal, I had a mission. And the people that I conversated with from these academies really liked it, to bridge the gap between grassroots and elite football, to create elite environments at lower levels, because that's where it all starts, not just for players, but for coaches as well.
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
And better coaches make better players, something I always stood behind. So I think the people that I brought on board and I would say the organizations were on a little bit higher scale than what we could handle at that time. And I don't think the owners and the investors were aware about what they did to me. They created a monster. They said, yeah, we want to grow. We want to go pro. I said, okay, good. That's all I need. Let me go. Bam. So yeah, just grew too fast. And they said, look, we can't pump enough money as fast as you are growing the club. So we're just going to pull out at the moment. Yeah.
Okay.
So how did you as a coach break into actual academy football? Like, how did that first come about? How did you make the transition from like a grassroots to that academy?
I can't say it's all thanks to me, because you have to have a bit of a luck as well. You have to be in the right time, in the right place in life. But you also have to be persistent. And, you're just going to have 1,000 no's. And I always say, all I need is one yes. So an opportunity came up with Norwich many years ago. And they were looking for a coach who was actually picking up players from London and driving to Norwich. Luckily, I'm crazy enough to do that. So I applied.
It's a long drive.
Yeah, 3 hours, sometimes 4, depending.
Oh, is it?
Yeah, one way. So I figured I might as well go for the interview. I probably won't get the job in a certain way, I thought. But I want to see what a professional environment looks like. I went there and I had a meeting with the academy manager back then. I said, I still remember what they asked me. They said, are you gonna, in a few months' time, if we give you this job, burn out? Like, be honest with us. And I said, nah. All I need is just you give me a chance. Just give me a chance. Trust me. I came for the interview. I took a train because I didn't drive back then. I took a train. I said, it took me 4 hours plus an hour to get here from the station. I'll do it. No problem. And yeah, after 2-3 months, they called me back and said, listen, his name is Joe. He said, this is Joe. You got the job. And I was like, oh, no way. So yeah, and then I got the job. And bear in mind, before I went into football, I was working in hospitality, earning double as a manager.
Oh, really?
Yeah, so that was a big sacrifice to give up the money that I used to make to get into full-time football.
Why take that risk? Why not just stick with the comfortable salary?
Money isn't everything. There was jobs that I rejected walking out on doors. I remember Angus Steakhouse in central London once offered me a general manager position, and I was still at the non-league club. And I said to them, listen, I need Tuesdays, Thursdays, evenings off, and I need Saturday off, game day. And they really liked me. They wanted to offer me the job, and they said, we'll give you Tuesday, Thursday, but Saturday we can't give you. It's busy. I said, sorry, but football for me is number one priority. And they said, sorry, we can't help you. So I walked out. I called up the investors. I said, listen, better make it worth it, because right now I just rejected a job that pays me probably more than double than what you pay me now. And doing it for 3 years, first year for free and another year for a little salary here and there. And yeah, you just got to believe. You just gotta
Okay.
believe, and you gotta do what you love. Guys, you live once. I mean, how many people end up changing their careers down the line because they're miserable?
Yeah.
So,
That's true. I want to quickly talk about sacrifice. Now, I was listening to a previous podcast that you've been on, and for that Norwich job, you were saying something like you applied again and again and again and again. You just kept applying,
Yeah.
and you obviously travelled a hell of a long way just to get there and back every day. How important is sacrifice?
super important. This is something that I speak to the boys a lot at the academy, and I think a lot of coaches have this struggle of nowadays people love the idea of becoming successful, but they don't like the idea of the process that it takes. So it's all rainbows and sunshine being at the top, what people see about successful people, because what's displayed on social media, what's displayed out there on YouTube and on the movies and what people talk about is just the tip of the iceberg. It's where people got, but the road, the journey there, the amount of sacrifice that people put in, lose friendships, family, time of their life, hours of their days. I mean, even now, my days start 8 in the morning and finish sometimes 9 in the evening. I'm still doing 2-3 jobs, so it's still not done, but getting there slowly. You just have to sacrifice. Again, one thing is liking the idea, but the second thing is, are you actually willing and ready to put the effort behind that? Like you guys just told me, this is a back-to-back podcast for you.
Yeah.
So you could be sitting back home watching Netflix. Actually, what you're doing the next episode, and you're giving your time and effort. And probably you're knackered as well after a long day. But hey, you got to do what you got to do. That's reality.
I found that once you accept how difficult it is to get to achieve goals, you start to enjoy the process a bit more. I think it's quite a sort of important mindset shift to switch from thinking about the goal to actually trying to enjoy the process of sucking at something and getting better slowly and seeing gradual improvements.
You said something amazing, and this is something in the Japanese culture that's emphasized a lot. I'm a big fan of Japanese culture, by the way. Enjoy the process. The goal, the product that you want will organically come if the process is done the way it should be done. People start things with motivation, and this is a big thing, like, oh, I'm motivated, let me do things. Okay, cool, but motivation eventually drops down, right?
Yeah.
But if you discipline yourself enough to build certain habits, then the process will have the consistency of a quality process with the outcome that you kind of aimed for. And I think this is what a lot of people lack. People start going to the gym. January comes, New Year's resolution. Oh, I'm going to be, comes
Gym
February,
subscriptions
March.
go up. Yeah.
Yeah, it comes February, March, and it's like a cemetery. There's nobody. You look around, everything is empty.
Yeah.
So yeah, absolutely. I mean, you guys see it. You got to enjoy what you do as well on the end of the day. But
Well, yeah, for sure. I mean, with this, I think our first episode got something like 0 listens. So you have to carry on doing that despite the fact you're getting 0 listens. You have to love the process.
yeah, who cares? You keep doing it. You believe in it. Don't care what others say. Like, I remember 2018, I was coaching in a park in Highgate Woods. And I'm not going to mention the name, but the gentleman kept saying to me, what's your aim? I mean, kept saying to me, he asked me, what's your aim? I said, I'm going to be a manager one day. And he said, did you play pro? I said, no. Do you have connections? I said, no. You'll never get on your B license. He said, I've been here in this country 7-8 years and I haven't got on my B license. And every weekend, same story. And I thought to myself, listen, he's not a bad guy, but his mindset is not for me. So you can tell me whatever you want to tell me. I know what I want and I'll achieve it. It's just a matter of time. Not because I think highly of myself, but because I know with consistency, with resilience, you can achieve what you want. It's just a matter of time.
Okay. You talked about Japanese culture. Just to quickly touch on that. So what sort of effects and influences has that had on your mindset? Because I know there's a lot of, I couldn't name you any, but I know there's a lot of concepts that are very, very spiritual in Japanese culture about sort of, I don't know, like we talked about then. What sort of other things have influenced you from Japanese culture?
There's a really famous book called Ikigai, and I believe a lot of people probably read it already and maybe you came across it. It's the Japanese way of expressing the meaning of life. I read it when my ex-marriage ended and I was in a bad place, sort of say. So I kind of reached out to certain books to find self-help. And I stumbled upon Ikigai. And Ikigai has 3 main, sort of say, key areas. Do what you love, do what you're good at, and do what's needed for society, what's useful for society. So there's a lot of respect and humbleness in Japanese culture. And these are one of the two key principles that I always instill into my players or at the college where I teach. I'm coming from an Eastern country where I have been raised a little bit different, a little bit more strict, which some things are pros of it and some things are cons of it. What I do miss of that sense of you have to respect your elderly, you have to be humble, you have to be respectful, you have to do your job, if you do something, do it with pride. But then in the West, there's other stuff that are really good as well. However, I think a fine balance of East and West, that golden middle road, would be something that can eventually works for everybody. But this is my perception. That doesn't mean I'm right.
Interesting.
Doesn't mean I'm wrong. But with Ikigai, I found that little bit of old school, kind of simple lifestyle, but respecting others around you and embracing the little things in life. Being grateful is one of the biggest things that Japanese culture preaches about. I mean, don't get me wrong, we all try to succeed in life, but we forget to be grateful about what we have. This is an amazing moment, the three of us having now a nice interview podcast. It's a unique moment. So we should embrace it and cherish it. It will never happen again the same way it's happening now.
Yeah, we could all do a bit more gratitude in our lives, I think.
It's very easy to overlook.
No, definitely.
Yeah, and why is it that people are anxious and depressed? I think they want more and more and more, and they forget to cherish what they have.
What they have, yeah.
I want to touch upon the elite mindset. Now, you've worked in many football academies across your coaching career. What does the elite mindset look like, and what separates the people that play in football academies to the people that play, let's just say, grassroots football?
It's very simple. It's the basic things. Basic things done at the highest level possible. I think that's a misconception that a lot of players have, and I keep telling my college boys, they think that by doing things in a fancy, complicated way, if I can frame it that way, will make them stand out and help them become professionals. However, the elite mindset is do less and less is more, but that little amount that you do it with high levels of quality. So don't do a quantitized job, do a qualitized job. And I think we all tend to go through that. I was doing so many things at once and it was quantitized. There was no quality of it. But then when I stepped on the gas a little bit and slowed it down and did less, I can see my work growing better. And that same thing with the players. Some academy players still do it. They have extra sessions outside of the academy. They work extra hard with personal trainers, etc., etc. Eventually, they break down. They get injuries. They neglect the elite mindset as well. So not every academy player has an elite mindset, unfortunately. This is another challenge that we have, I think, all over the Premier League, the Championship. We have great skillful potentials, but only a few of them will become professionals. And I do believe, and again, it's my perception, the lack of a disciplined mindset and a resilient.
Interesting.
Character.
Yeah. So sort of doing less better is better than doing more worse. Yeah, effectively.
But it's true, isn't it? I mean, look, if I give you, forgive me, let me grab something. I'm sitting next to my bookshelf. I'd say, read this book now, today, right? Read the whole book today. It's called The Power of the Habit, right? Power of Habit. Similar to Atomic Habits. Read this book.
I've read that one. Yeah.
Yeah. So read this book and then come back to me and tell me, what do you remember? You remember a few things, right? We wouldn't have a proper conversation about it as deeply as we could if I say, read 20 pages and let's discuss it properly. Let's discuss those pages properly. I do believe if you give yourself every day 20 pages, on the end of this book, you'll have more than just on the end of the day and end of this book, if that kind of makes sense.
No, it makes a lot of sense. It's very transferable to everything, like reading books. A lot of people read them, so like, oh, I've read 5 books this month. But it's actually best just to really understand that one book you're reading rather than say you've read 10. What have you learned from them? What can you take away?
Me and my partner every morning, I mean, we haven't done it for a while now, but we usually take a chapter of the book, we'll have a cup of coffee, we read it, and we discuss it. And it is fascinating. It's
Many
so
book
I like that.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's really interesting. And then we exchange perspectives, then we put it in real life scenarios and examples. And then I go and I teach and I put it there in an example. And I think I take on board so much more than just sitting down and reading for hours.
Yeah.
I don't think our
Yeah.
attention span can handle it.
Are you quite a big reader? Is that quite important in your approach to coaching?
I can sound cool and I could say yes. I should be than what I am. There are times when I read, when I'm in the right state of mind, I think, when I'm not kind of working a lot. Like right now, I'm a bit overloaded with stuff.
Yeah.
But there are times when I don't touch a book probably for a month or so. So, I don't think we should put pressure on us. Oh, you're not reading, you're not, developing
sure.
yourself. So what?
Interesting. Okay, sure. Harrison mentioned that you're interested in sort of emotional intelligence. He said that's where he came away from the call, say you're interested in. Can you tell us a bit about what that actually is, first of all? Is it just understanding sort of the nuances of human relationships? What is it?
I think the first time it came across was my former operation director in the restaurant where I was working. And he said to me, you're emotionally very intelligent. You're really good with customers. And I was like, oh, thank you for for that. That's nice. But what is it? So I researched it. And then I realized actually I have a lot of traits from what emotional intelligence is. And to just be very direct with it and clear so I don't confuse you or anyone else. There's two things about emotional intelligence. One is interpersonal intelligence, which is our relationship with others. Again, something going back on the beginning of our conversation. How do we adapt with other people around us? Our communication skills, our people skills. And then the intrapersonal, which I think is the next level, is about understanding yourself. So lately I've been doing a lot of research because of my degree as well and because of the teaching as well. You don't choose how you feel. You choose your decisions, which emotional intelligence talks about. However, if you dig deeper into that, okay, so I feel certain ways, I don't choose that, but I choose how I react to it, which is the good news. But I'm going to flip it around. Now, if you dig into that a little bit deeper, you choose how you feel. How do you choose how you feel? It's the way you see things. It's your perspective. So you walk down on the street and somebody shouts at you and you can get upset and shout back at them. Or you can say, I wonder what happened to this guy or this person, like, I feel so sorry for him. So now you're choosing two different perspectives. And because you chose two different perspectives, one will upset you, one will make you curious. So yes, you actually choose how you feel. It's just how you see things.
Interesting. Yeah.
And I think this self-regulation, this is something, I'm a very values-based coach. So yes, you need tactics and you need techniques and et cetera, but you need to develop the person before you develop the football player. That's the foundation, that's the basic. So develop a open, holistic mindset that's resilient as well and self-regulates. One of the former players I worked at at Norwich, he got the call up for the national team of England. I won't say any names, but I didn't coach him his whole career. Don't get me wrong. I didn't make him who he is. But he had an issue where if he misses on a 1v1 situation or he doesn't score in a goal-scoring opportunity, he'll start cursing and he'll get upset. And then I watched his footage. Every time that happens, he gets worse in the game. So we had a few conversations where we said, listen, this is how you are. You're an amazing player, fantastic. But when you miss an opportunity, you get upset and you lose control. And you don't know how to self-regulate. So let's come up with a plan. Let's make sure that next time you recognize it. That's step one. And step two, you create a trigger where it might be a word or a movement, or you tuck in your shirt, or you take out your shirt and you tuck it back in. Something where you reset yourself and you start again. And I think a lot of people are missing this. The guy who sits in traffic and starts honking.
So it's almost being like rational before you react.
It is not easy. I don't think it is easy because we are very reactive, not active. But if we can recognize, some people do breathing techniques. Some people say, okay, give me 5 seconds. Let me just walk away. Or just recognize that you are not in the right state of mind. And it won't happen just because I told you or you read about it. It takes time. It takes a lot of time. It takes repetitive practice.
Yeah. Are there any exercises that one can do to embrace this lifestyle change?
Yeah, just keep that repetition going on. Your brain is a muscle. It creates muscle memory. And when I say muscle memory, that can come to habits as well. I think the brain uses 20% of the body's energy, of the whole body, and the
Okay,
brain is the
nice.
smallest
Yeah.
muscle. And it uses 20% when you're using your frontal cortex, when you're studying, when you're reading, when you're learning a new skill. So that's a lot of energy. But if you're using a habit, then it's only using around 5%. So you're preserving 15% of energy. So if you build these good habits, then you create this repetitive habit, subconscious behavior of, okay, upset, now I need to cool down. But it's self-regulating, it's reflecting, it's also being open-minded of, hey, I need to be better and I want to be better.
Yeah.
It's a lot of work, but it's a lot of talk, one-to-one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And eventually
When,
it's like your habit. So, yeah.
when sort of when talking about habits, what is some daily habits or even rituals that a team can do in order to perform more regularly and not just occasionally?
Good question. I think there's a lot of factors to consider there. It depends on the age group. It depends on the levels you play. Depends on the environment. Depends on the culture. Culture plays a massive role. Culture forms habits. Behaviors form culture. And that should come from the management. That's something that we literally recently instilled into the college boys. Because my research for my dissertation is about creating a high performance environment. The aim is to get it published, hopefully, knock on wood. Let's see. But I'm glad you asked. I know the best way to build a high performing team is to build a cohesion, build relationships. An example, you walk into a room and you don't know anyone. You'll feel a bit uncomfortable, right? Maybe not necessarily uncomfortable, depends on you, but you wouldn't feel as comfortable doing certain things as you would, let's say, with Tom in the same room.
Yeah.
Now, first I need to make you get to know Tom and make Tom get to know you. So we'll do some games, some team building games, some team bonding games. Build that culture of certain behavior. So when the boys come, they know they shake hands with each other. Physical contact, really important, really important. Then they are following certain principles like respect, discipline, being humble, high standards, professionalism. Everything has a consequence, positive, negative. And this is something that needs to be preached over and over and over again. The classroom has to be tidy because if things are messy around you, things are messy inside you. You can't focus. You know that nice feeling when you make your bed?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Dopamine release. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. So it's tidy. You feel good. Now you can function. Same thing anywhere else. Bibs and cones and balls around the place is not good. People don't consider these things. They should. The environment is what makes you. We are the products of our environment. Let's focus first on the environment. Make it a safe environment where people can show their natural competencies and we can maximize it. And they will support each other. So build the environment to build the relationships, and then people will flourish. And then later the tactics can come in. Not saying neglected, but I think higher importance should be given. Because we're human beings, we function based on emotions.
Yeah.
Right? So why not focus on that first, then the rest? Again, personal perception, not saying
Yeah.
this. Yeah.
When it comes to these different environments, now, so let's say you as a coach, you're going to have your own like philosophies and way that you teach. Different clubs will have their own sort of ways of doing things, and how do you sort of navigate that, even when it comes to companies or anything else in life? How do you navigate that and sort of adapt your delivery of sessions and then your culture of doing things?
And this is a never-ending debate, I think, amongst academy coaches in academies.
Yeah.
Listen, on the end of the day, when you walk into a club, it is their home, it's their house. You have to respect the rules. If you feel like their rules don't suit who you are as a person, the values you stand behind, then don't join it. Some people join it and they
Yeah.
complain about it. Well, nobody grabbed you by the hand and brought you into the club saying you must work for us. So, how do you incorporate then your values? That comes down to your personal relationships with your players. I think that's when you incorporate it. The playing style, again, it will depend on the age group. If they're kids, it doesn't really matter. You know how football is. You go
Yeah.
play first team, you play 100 different playing styles. So you really want to create a holistic player. Academy football, if we're talking about foundation phase and youth development phase, developing those values, developing the person before the player. Then at PDP, which is the professional development phase, 18 and above, is developing and specializing the player now. So the person should have a strong foundation. Now let's work on that specializing tactical skill of the player. The playing style. You have to have the basics of not just being a good human being and someone that you can work with. Players should be coachable. You have to have the technique as well, obviously. But like yourselves and like me and everybody else, we know so many players that are super good and super skillful, but they don't play from academy because they don't have the right mindset. And I think that's what's lacking. So again, just got to read the room what's needed. Sometimes it's a tough one because I stand behind certain values and a certain playing style, but that doesn't mean that necessarily I would play it. One, I'm respecting the house rules of the academy. The second, it might not suit the needs of the players because I have totally different profiles and they just can't play what I want them to play. So now I need to figure out what they need and I need to adapt myself. But yeah, it's a really, really complex decision.
Yeah, I can imagine.
Sort of navigate around.
Yeah, you just got to read the room. There's no written rules, to be honest.
Yeah. If we were to look back over your whole career so far, so you got the hospitality, the academies, and NC education, now Watford. What do you wish that you understood about high performance?
What do I wish that I understood about high performance? Good question. Who came up with that one? I don't think I wish I understood something. I just wish I had more self-confidence of knowing that being a high performer is not so complicated.
Yeah.
Having a high performance environment is not science physics, because until I stepped in, I always figured, oh my God, am I good enough? I don't have the experience. Who am I going to learn from? I'm going to be amongst these amazing, qualified, experienced people. And at the end of the day, they are just people as well. But the ones that are on the top do the simple things the best. Every time I meet an ex-pro, and I work with an ex-pro in Watford, we have a few of them. They are so humble and basic. They don't complicate stuff. They're very nice people. They go say hi to everybody. So again, it's not science physics. It's that less is more, but that less is being done at the highest level possible. And I think that's what high performance is in general.
Yeah. Just before we let you go, well, thank you for being here today, first of all. But if we were to zoom out, like, what excites you about the next generation of sports people, the next generation of entrepreneurs, coaches, leaders, anything at all?
I think we're heading towards an era where people realize that being an entrepreneur is not all about money. It's about giving back to society. It's about giving back to the community. It's about doing something good for humanity. And that is really important because that is satisfactory. We are social creatures. We feel good amongst other people that are important for us. And it truly fulfills us. Like they say in the 3 blue zones that exist in the world, one in Japan, one in Italy, and one in America, where some live above 100. They all have different diets. They're all different cultures. But they all gather together on the end of the day in their local community and they socialize. So I think that's where the entrepreneurs are heading as well. The future coaches are understanding more and more the needs of the person before the athlete or the player. We're getting smarter as we speak. I mean, the knowledge that we have on a reach of a hand, or however you express yourself, I'm not quite sure, is fascinating. So I'm seeing some good positive stuff, if you ask.
Amazing. Thank you so much for joining us. It's been really interesting. Thank you.
Thank you, Harry.
Thank you for listening to yet another episode of In the Business. I thought that was a really interesting one because there are so many skills that are transferable. Even though Norbert was a football coach, a lot of the things he said there can be transferred into entrepreneurship and business. Here's a man who had a philosophy to his life and his work, which I think it was really interesting to see and hear. Tell me what you thought, Harrison.
Yeah, I really like the emotional intelligence because it's right. If you can understand these things, just when you're growing a team as a startup, you're going to be a lot more effective in managing your people and growing that team and, you know, succeeding whatever you're trying to do.
If you work on your mind when these challenges do come along, say in a business or, I don't know, during hard times in the economy, whatever happens, you'll be able to deal with them better if you've developed that mental resilience, like you're saying there. You're saying you've got to work on the person before the actual football skills, which I thought was a really interesting point.
Yeah, I felt like we did something a bit different this episode. We talked sort of less about him and what led him up to doing today, and more sort of bits around his philosophy and how he does things.
Yeah, it was an interesting
yeah, it was a different perspective of things, a different way of looking at it. So do give us a shout if you like this sort of episode. It is a little bit different to what we usually do.
And yeah, like, subscribe, follow, comment, give us some criticism. We can take it, I promise.
Please.
All of that stuff. And yeah, just let us know what you think. So see you at the next episode.
To seeing you next time.
I look forward to your
company.
In a bit.